Like 2 days later, everything was in here. You're not coming back. Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday already. Hope you're having a great week. We're getting ready to talk with Justin about Disneyland. I know it's been a lot of Disneyland lately. I'm sorry, but hey, Justin, how long has this show been on the books? We've been 6 months, a long time.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
right
wait, let me look.
before
I
we
can, I
went.
can tell you. Yeah, August 21st is when you emailed me
Yeah.
right here. So this is just a coincidence that I just happened to get back from Disneyland, and then some Friday show is going to be about Disneyland. Of course, Thursday I probably talked about Disneyland on the Sunday show. Yeah, a lot of Disneyland this week. But hey, it's the original park. So hang with us. All right, so we're going to talk about his trip to Disneyland. It's going to be fun. You stayed even better place than I stayed.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
That was
Can't wait to
the wife won on that one.
Yeah, Scott. That's Scott's place. He's been there. He's like, dude, you gotta stay at the Grand Californian. I'm like, I can't imagine it being better than the Disneyland Hotel. He's like, oh, it is. I'm like, well, I don't need to know that because the Disneyland Hotel is expensive enough. I'm like, I just it's those things. If you don't know, you don't know. That's always tell him. If I don't know, I don't know. So, but he's like, dude, it just do it once. I'm like, that's what gets you in trouble doing it once. Like then you can't go back. It's always his thing, and that's why we're buds. Because he's always right. It's like you're exactly right, but I can't afford to do all that all the time. Okay, so this is 2267 for this Monday. Okay, my phone's muted because my dad will call as soon as I start recording every time.
Make sure mine is too. Yep.
Even though I'm on, he's on Facebook all the time, and I know he knows, but he always calls. I swear. Like, how do you not know? All right, here we go. Welcome to episode 2267 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope everybody had a great weekend, a great Easter weekend. And if you're like me, let me just tell you how the Monday after Easter Sunday works for Mike Rallman. Right now, I'm definitely probably recovering from too much honey baked ham because we always get the honey baked ham. We splurge on that at Easter because we are the host family. Everybody comes over to our house. We do the Easter egg hunt for the little kids in the backyard. We do money eggs. I don't know if you guys do this where you're from around the world, but we have this is all my mother-in-law's doing too. And it's led to some wonderful memories over the years, many happy cheers of victory, and many fits of defeat with kids crying and kids stomping around because they didn't get the big money egg, because there's always one egg that has more money than the others. It's the special egg. But we put little prizes in all the plastic eggs, hide them in the backyard. Then we have the money egg. It's a whole thing. I mean, it's like a carnival in our backyard on Easter Sunday. But the main thing is the honey baked ham when you get older. And then my mother-in-law's famous mashed potatoes. They're not really anything special, but they're just so good. So right now I'm probably in a coma from honey baked ham and one too many servings of mashed potatoes and plenty of deviled eggs. Got to have those on Easter Sunday as well. So hope you're having a great Monday. I don't know how your weekend was, but mine was filled with way too much food and hopefully a lot of fun with the family. But hey, we're getting this week started the right way, and we're going to have a fun trip report. And I know we've been talking a lot of Disneyland over the past few days. We're going to continue that today, and I can't say that I'm not excited about that. We're headed out to North Carolina today with listener Justin. Justin, happy Monday. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike. Knocks a Disney bucket list item off for me.
Oh, my gosh. It makes my day. I appreciate that. So how are things going this spring out in North Carolina? I mean, we talked a little bit before we recorded. You are a basketball fan, but a Duke fan. So
Right.
it's good to be on that side of the rivalry, at least this year, right?
Oh, yeah, now that the tournament's done. So there's always next year.
That's right. That's right. Especially at the transfer portal. Fortunes can change in the blink of an eye. We're actually, I think Mizzou's hoping to get a kid from out your way, from St. Louis, that he's in the portal right now. Or hopefully by now we'll have him. Love, a kid named Love. Anyway, so we're going to talk about your trip to Disneyland. But before we do that, give me some of your background on why you listen to Disney podcasts and how you kind of came into the Disney fandom. How did it all start?
I've been a Disney fan as long as I can remember. I started out going with my parents. I'm 35, and I started out going when I was in diapers. my parents owned their own business, and it gave us a lot of availability to travel. And when I was little, Disney World was just kind of our place, and we would go once or twice a year. I went with them probably uh, 30 times. Then I went with them when I was in college. As I got older, found out about girls. You know, took a break from Disney for a
Yeah.
while, but then when my wife and I were engaged, we started going a little bit. And after getting married, went once or twice. Had our first daughter, and then being able to see it through her eyes, and now we have a second daughter. Just it makes everything like it's new again, watching it from their perspective.
That is 100% true. And I've been telling Ricky that, right? Because Ricky just had little baby
Hmm.
Lucy and she's done everything, just like, many of us that have listened to the show. We've done everything so many times, but, she's going to get to go through that whole experience of it's all new again. When you take a kid for the first
Yeah.
ride on, I almost said Splash Mountain. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. On the People Mover or what have you,
Hmm.
Small World, that's your prime example for a little kid, see them light up when they see that. It's like you've never been on the attraction before. It's really, I'm glad you brought that up. Now, so did you always grow up in North Carolina? So I'm always curious for those folks who grew up in the Southeast. Was it something you guys just drove down? It was close enough, like within striking distance, or did you guys fly? How'd that work?
When I was growing up, we drove. My dad was always watched his pennies, so
Yep.
we always drove and stayed at the All Stars.
That's what
And
we would have done.
yep.
Totally.
And my wife and I have been very blessed with our careers, and we have we typically fly, and when we go, we try and take our daughters to those places that both of us kind of wanted to stay at when we were younger and couldn't quite swing.
Yep.
And we found that with kids, we want to stay at the deluxes or moderates because the rooms were a little bit larger. We were spending more time in the rooms, and transportation was usually a little bit easier for those mid-afternoon naps and when we needed to get back.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. When you have kids, those extra perks of moving up to a moderate or deluxe, they add up, especially if you're going to be spending time at the resorts to have a larger room. The kids will get a kick out of having a slide at the pool. I mean, that's you
Hmm.
don't realize like that's a huge deal to kids. I mean, if you don't have kids, you're like, who cares? It's a slide. No, it's a big deal. And you get to the deluxe resorts, those pools are like many water parks, the Polynesian, the Stormalong Bay at the Yacht and the Beach. Boardwalk is pretty amazing. It's just you're paying a lot extra, but you're getting a lot extra. But we're talking Disneyland today. But look, before we jump in one more time, you're DVC members. So
Right.
tell us about your background with DVC. So how did that start for you, and what are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, when it was just my wife and I going, we would Pop was our go-to. It's clean. It's a nice resort, and we were using the room to sleep and shower. And then, like I say, as we had kids and found ourselves staying in the deluxes more, it just the dollars and cents on it made sense. So we bought DVC, and we like it. We will try do some trips that are a little bit short notice or kind of quick, and that can be problematic with
Mhm.
DVC. We typically will have one or two DVC trips on the books that we've booked far out, and then if we may book a shorter planned trip, cash.
Right.
That's the only thing we've not liked about it so far, but it's certainly got its perks.
Yeah, I hear that from many guests because it's so funny that because travel agents can't book DVC. That's a whole separate,
Hmm.
booking with the points as opposed to cash. But many of my best guests are DVC members because of that exact reason,
Yep.
right? They have their like their big vacation, 11 months a year out. They got that on the
Hmm.
books. But then all of a sudden an event happens, oh, there's a villains after hour I got to go to, it was just announced in 2 months, and no DVC availability, or they just want to stay at a value resort because it's just going to make financial sense. Going to go down for a quick weekend, so we do that. It is funny because there's kind of a little flexibility in that, and that's great that you brought that up because Scott, he's a DVC member, and I take care of him all the
Hmm.
time. Okay, so interesting how this Disneyland trip came together. Father's Day gift. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's an awesome present. So give us the backstory on this Disneyland trip. When did you guys go, and tell us about finding out about it?
So it's not an official thing in our house, but it has become a thing that my wife and I usually, instead of exchanging presents of something that's going to get, stuck in a closet or put in the garage or up on a shelf to never use, we'll usually try and get each other experiences or trips, things that we want to do. And we're a really close knit family, so we like spending a lot of time together and like traveling together as a family. So my wife's very, very type A. Like for our honeymoon, we went to France, and we went for like 2 weeks. And before we left, I had a bound copy of an itinerary for every day, all of our reservations, just in depth.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, for going to a foreign country, I would say yes. That's really good.
Oh yes, absolutely. I would have been completely lost. But so I'm a guy of few big interests, but the things that I'm interested in are man, I'm in them. So it's usually kind of easy for me to figure out what a present may be. Like last year, I got to go see one of Coach K's last games at Duke.
Nice, nice.
So my wife is also really, really bad at keeping a present a secret. So I got home. She's like, I have your Father's Day present, and this was probably late May, and I mean, it was still sitting on the printer. So she just reached up on the printer and she had put, some pictures in like a Word document. And I started flipping through it and I saw some of Disney font. And then I flipped a couple more pages and I saw the teacups, but I saw them out in the open.
Nice.
And that's when it clicked to me like, oh my gosh, we're going to Disneyland. So then I kept flipping and then, oh, there's a reservation for the Grand Californian club level. Flip the next
Very
page.
nice.
There's our 4-day park hoppers with Genie. And then flip another. There's our first class plane tickets. So she went all out. And then when I found out, you know, all of those things coming together, like, man, this is really going to be a trip. So I started researching, thinking about it a little bit more, and went ahead and booked a VIP tour for one of the days that we were there. I figured if we were gonna go all out, might as well really go all out.
Well, yeah.
And so we did that while we were there, and I mean it's one of the best trips of my life.
So let me stop at this point and just say this show is coming out at a strategic time by accident, but maybe on purpose, that we are within striking distance of Father's Day 2023. So if any wives out there want to treat their husbands to a trip like this, there is still time. Pam Rallman. I'm just kidding. It would be awesome, though. I would not turn this down. Okay, so let me ask you this, though. I just philosophically, because you're a Walt Disney World fan, you don't go to land
Right.
as much as you do World, right? Obviously.
Nope, that's
No,
the
okay.
first trip ever.
Oh, first time ever. Okay, so
Yep.
how did you feel when you found out like this was a trip to Disneyland as opposed to some big splurge trip to World? Because like when you saw the teacups outside, you could have either been like nervous, excited, disappointed.
Mhm.
Because for over a decade, people kept telling me, "Got to go to Disneyland." I just kept telling myself inside, like, I'm not gonna like it. Like, it's just not World. I love
Mhm.
Walt Disney World. Like, before you got there, like, did you have a deep desire to go out there? How did you feel pre-trip?
For a long time, I felt the same way that you did. Like, man, the castle's so small, and like,
It
there's
is.
only two parks, and
Yeah.
it just can't be that much. But then, as I became a bigger and bigger Disney fan, I had a burning desire to go just because of the history
Mhm.
and because that Walt was actually there. You know, you can walk in his footsteps, literally, compared to Walt Disney World he had a part of, and but so much of that you felt like it was inspired by Disneyland when Disneyland is the OG.
Right. That's 100% right. You can see that the stuff at World comes from land. Now that once you've been to both, you see it. But when you're at land, you're like, this is I mean, this isn't a duplicate of Main Street USA. This is, walk down this street. Like, this is where he picked up
Mhm.
trash. It's like, it's hard to wrap your head around that your first or second time out there. I still like, I can almost see like a ghost of Walt, like in the evenings as I'm
Mhm.
walking out of the park, in my mind's eye. It's a special place. So let's jump into the trip because I want to make sure we get, all the details of the trip and the
Sure.
logistics and some tips. So you went with your wife and your two daughters, 5 years
Mhm.
old and 10 months at the time, and you had to
Yep.
fly all the way across the country. So
Mhm.
give us some tips about the travel and arrival. So you guys flew into LAX.
Mhm.
What was travel like, especially with a 10-month-old? That had to have been challenging a little bit.
Yeah, and she is the, prototypical second child.
I have one of those, and she's 15, but still.
Yeah. Um, on the we had flown with her a couple of times, and, uh, the one of the biggest things that we did was, went on Amazon and bought some, uh, entertainment for her, little busy books and things that would be self-contained that didn't have a million tiny little pieces that she could play with on the plane. And at that point, she was still young enough that my wife could woo her to sleep with her motherly ways. So we live about 2 hours from Raleigh, Durham. So we flew out of there to Atlanta, and then in Atlanta switched to our flight to LA. And we had about an hour and a half layover in Atlanta, but there was some little delay right as we were getting into the gate that made our connection pretty tight. We made the flight, but then our bags didn't make it to LA,
Oh,
which it was pretty tough with all of the baby formula in there.
oh man. I
So
see. I
thankfully,
knock on wood. That's never happened to me yet. But the only thing I'd be missing is like my running shoes. And it's seriously,
yeah,
that's not a big deal compared to what you guys were dealing with.
yeah, we you know took what we thought was enough with us, but didn't want to carry the kitchen sink and a
Yeah.
carry on to have to tote through the airports with two kids. So thankfully, it just got put on the next flight from Atlanta to LA, and we went and got our rental car, which was kind of an ordeal there. And then by the time we circled back, it was about an hour. Our That flight had gotten there, and our bags were there. So got our bags, put them in our minivan, and off to In and Out in Disneyland.
Nothing like it. I love that you guys went to In and Out. That's well done. First time at In and Out. I know this is going to be an
Oh,
In and Out show, but
yes,
first time.
yes,
So
it
does it
was.
lives up to the hype?
Absolutely. One of the few things
I
that
agree.
has.
I agree. It's so good. It's so good. I didn't get it this past trip because I didn't know how to make the Lyft driver pull in. Like I almost told the guy, like, dude, I just want to go to an In and Out. I don't know where there is one. You probably do, and I'll buy you whatever you want. But I didn't have the guts. I thought about it like twice, but I didn't want to ask him. I didn't know what the
Those
rules
lines
were.
are crazy.
I know they are. I know exactly. I'd be like, I'll probably miss my flight, but who cares? At least it was on the way back.
Mhm.
Okay, so you guys get out there. So let me ask you about Arrival. So
Okay.
Arrival's kind of a trip, right? For somebody that's a Walt Disney World fan into
Mhm.
Disneyland. Like, I mean, you're going on like a million different highways from LAX. I mean, you change
Mhm.
highways like 7 times because I was watching in the back of my Lyft last week. And all of a sudden, you just there's like a sign that says Disneyland Hotel, the next exit. You take like two rights
Mhm.
and then bam, you're there. It's so different than World. Like World is so sterile and so detached from everything. And it's like, and you're there. But then I still felt like I was in the bubble once I got into the Disneyland Hotel. I don't know if you felt that way for your stay, but I felt like I was still insulated because like this trip I didn't go off property. Now in July we went to a Dodgers game. But how did you feel upon arrival? Like, what did that feel like being a Walt Disney World veteran?
Absolutely. Getting there, it kind of feels like Universal Orlando.
Good, yeah,
How
good
it's just
parallel.
right off the interstate. But then once we got there, the Grand Cal, has the entrance just into, was it downtown? Is it downtown Disney there?
And DCA, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's got the
Oh yeah, the
entrance into,
downtown Disney. Yep.
yeah, into downtown Disney to get to Disneyland, and then it has the actual entrance to get into DCA. So absolutely in the bubble, and that was one of the big things I felt like in the park. That was one of the things I was a little bit concerned about, like you were talking about earlier, was, you know, what if I'm at the top of a ride and look over and see a, Taco Bell?
Yeah, I know. Well, see,
But
that'd be my
no,
dream. But
no
yeah,
offense. I know how
I
you
know
feel about Taco
A
Bell.
Denny's. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's for all intents and purposes with that, you're just as much in the bubble there as you are at World.
Yeah. I felt the same. It was totally unfounded. And yeah, I get it if you're saying, but people say it's not even that bad because I still haven't done a good neighbor hotel, but Scott has many
Mhm,
times. He's like, dude, it's not even that bad in a good neighbor hotel. He's like, you just walk across the street and you're there. You're in there. Like you just
mhm.
because we're having this discussion about what we're doing for the races in January. He's like, dude, I cannot afford to stay on site. It'll be crazy. I'm like, come on, we'll make it happen. Anyway, we'll figure that out later. So you get there now. You didn't have park tickets your arrival day, and I was the exact
Right.
same way in July. And I was just like, I was so amped up. Mallory took a picture of me because I just had to see Disney. I had to see the train station. So I know you guys kind of went to bed, but like I got there and I walked through downtown Disney and I just went up to the Esplanade and just had to
Mhm,
look. Like I knew I couldn't get in, but it's so crazy that you can get that close. Like you can get right up to those gates and just like stick your head through the rails and like
mhm.
just see right there to the train station. Mallory got a really good picture of me. I didn't even know she took it, and it's one of my favorites. But I was like, oh my gosh, like that is the train station of Disneyland that I've seen on TV and all
Mhm.
these things for my whole life. What was your first? Was it the next day when you guys went to Disneyland? Like your first glimpse and your first feelings? Like, give me that first impression of we're actually at Disneyland Park.
So that first night, we had been traveling all day with the kids. I mean, we went to bed when it was still light outside.
Yeah, I hear you.
But then the next day, which would have been Sunday, uh, as we walked up and walked through the turnstiles, I started crying. I mean,
Hmm.
it was just it's something I've wanted to do for so long, and then the meaningfulness of the trip that my wife gifted it to me because
Right.
she knew it was something that was so important to me, and it just a culmination of everything. I wasn't bawling like a baby, but I had some good
Hmm.
Disney tears,
I get you.
and made made a beeline for the train station. I had given a lot of thought to it, and I wanted that to be the first ride that we did. Walt's love of trains is what inspired the parks, and I just felt like that was a very appropriate first ride to take in everything and to ride what he was so inspired by.
I love it. And that's a great ride too, because you could have your family sitting right there side by side with you. You know, you're having that
Hmm.
shared experience. I'm sure you probably got a selfie of the family on the train at Disneyland,
Yep.
like first time there, in the first half hour being here. And by the way,
Hmm.
the train at Disneyland is amazing compared to, I mean, I hate to compare things, but the dioramas, those things are
Yep.
epic.
And the way you sit, that's kind of
Yeah.
cool. Like Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Yep. 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 Okay, so you get there, you have your moment, and I've had the exact same moment, man. I had it last
Hmm.
July. Here's the thing: Scott's family didn't arrive until our second day there, so I was kind of glad. I had my first day without Scott's family; it was just us
Hmm.
because he was in San Diego still. And I was just like, because I had to get all those emotions out, man. It was raw. I was like, this is insane that I'm actually here. I can't believe I made it here. I totally feel what you're saying. But you get through the train. So walk us through that day. How does that day unfold? Because again, everything feels similar but new. It's a great, comfortable feeling. At least it was for me. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted the train to be number one, and then Splash Mountain is my all-time favorite ride. So I wanted to do that second. We did that, and it wasn't my favorite.
You know
uh,
what? I never did Splash Mountain at Disneyland either trip because Scott told me you get drenched in that thing, and I didn't want to get wet either
but
time because it was cold this last trip.
it, it's amazing how much faster it was. After Disney World, it felt kind of rushed. And when we did our VIP tour, that was actually one of the things he brought up or I brought that up to our tour guide, and he said that was one of the things that was causing Tiana to have such a delay was the pacing. That you know, Disneyland's was like thumbing through a book quickly, where Disney World's was slowly turning a page, and it was taking a lot to put the same story into different time frames.
I like it. That storytelling. I like the way they
But
spun that.
that first day, we rode. We really focused on attractions. Not that Disneyland had bad food, but food is food, and that's the one place you can do those attractions compared to get something to eat. So when we're at Disney World, we may slow down. We do slow down, do a lot of table service, and just kind of take what comes to us. But that first day, we really focused on attractions, and especially like Fantasyland. There, it's like a golf course. The way you get off of one ride, and then the
Yes.
entrance to the next queue is right beside
100%.
you.
Yeah. It's
It's
crazy.
so efficient.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
and the crowds and lines are a little bit less than World. So we got a lot done that first day, and then we leaned on the lounge for the club service a lot for eating. It was outstanding. So we went there quite a bit during breaks and things like that for our meals. We had our fair share of churros though.
Those churros are so good out there. They're so
They
good.
are.
I'm glad you brought up Fantasyland because until you experience it, you're exactly right. It's so compact. It's so it's not that it's too small. It's just compact. There's so many attractions just right next to each other that you literally do go right from one to the next. And the funny thing is, like you said, the lines don't seem to be as long. And as you're going from attraction to attraction, both times I've been out there, you're likely to see characters just walking through. Like I've seen Hook,
Hmm.
Peter Pan. I've seen Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Hatter. This past trip, the whole band was on the carousel playing away while the carousel's going. People riding it. I mean, it's just. It is Fantasyland. I mean, it's like walking through a Disney commercial. I mean, it's crazy to say that, but it's as close to walking through one of those commercials. You don't see that at World. You just don't see that like spontaneity that you see in Fantasyland at Disneyland. I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. If a character was walking through World like that, they'd be
They'd be swamped.
mobbed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's sad.
but
I don't know why, because nobody bugs them out there. I mean, people go up and try to get a, selfie or get a, but they have a way, they keep moving, but it's like everybody out there knows, it's like there's like an unspoken rule. It's like in baseball,
mhm.
like unwritten rules. It's kind of like there's an unwritten rule out there that everybody knows. And I don't know why that works out there. It doesn't work at World. It's weird. I don't get it.
I, I've heard stats about the number of locals compared to tourists there, and I kind of attributed a lot of that
That's
to it.
probably
That
it.
that's old news for so many of the people there,
Yeah.
and meanwhile we're standing there jumping up and down.
Because every time I see him, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're walking just cruising through. Let me take a break here because I want to make sure we talk about this before we get into DCA and some of the other times in the parks.
Mhm.
Tell us about the Grand Floridian because you have a lot of comparisons to Walt Disney World resorts. You stay deluxe down in
Mhm.
Florida. Your DVC members. Tell us about what that stay was like, especially club level for folks that might be considering staying at this resort hotel.
It was great. To It kind of messes with your mind to call it the Grand Californian, because for me, being so used to World, you just envision the Grand Floridian every time
Mhm.
something starts with Grand. So it's really like Wilderness Lodge West
Right.
Coast.
Yeah, I
but
agree. It's misnamed or something for world people. Same.
but it kind of drew a parallel to Disneyland and Disney World. To me, again, it it's a large resort, but it is smaller. It's not like you're in Timbuktu at Animal Kingdom Lodge where you're walking for 15 minutes to get to your room. Uh, it was everything you expect from Disney: good service, nice and clean, quiet. The club level rooms. I don't remember what floor it was. The fourth or fifth floor, pretty much right off the main lobby. We were just down a hall there, and the club lounge. Uh, when you walked out of the doors to the club lounge, you're overlooking the lobby. and it's really neat. It had a balcony. Like that first night, we watched the Disneyland fireworks from the balcony on the lounge,
Nice.
and it it would be hard to go back and want to stay somewhere else. I do want to try Disneyland Hotel, but you know, when you get spoiled like that, it's
Yeah.
nice.
Disneyland Hotel is awesome. I mean, I've stayed there twice and I'm just like enthralled with the place. I love it. But from what people have said and what you've just said, yeah, you might have it there. So that
Yeah,
sounds pretty,
eh,
because I'm a Wilderness Lodge fan. I love the aesthetics of the Grand Californian because we went in and had a meal at Storytellers
mhm.
and I just loved walking around. And we saw while we were waiting out at the pool, people were doing yoga on like paddle boards on the on the water in the pool. So they were doing their poses while balancing on those like kickboards. I was like, is this California or what? Like they're doing yoga on water on paddleboard. Like I couldn't do those moves on ground. It was the wildest thing I ever saw. I still can't
They
get
have
that out of my mind.
did they have avocados waiting for him on the side?
I'm saying it was wild. I kept telling Scott, look, that's great. They're doing the downward dog. They're balancing on a board. I couldn't even sit on that board to, anyway. So so the next day though, I'll make sure to get all this in because you got so much.
Yeah.
You go to DCA the next day. So
Mhm.
talk to us about how this day unfolds because you got a whole nother new park on the other side of the Esplanade here. Or you could just walk in. You're at the Grand California, and I forgot. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and with that, we knew that we were so in love with Disneyland after that first day that that morning my wife went and added an additional day to our room and our tickets. So we were going to do 4 days, which I know a lot of people will do with Disneyland, but with those small kids where we're doing rider swap, and our far and above number one has always been to go at our kids' pace. That's what has made our trips successful, fun, not nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
So we added on that next day, and let's see, we woke up that morning, had some got coffee and a couple pastries at the club level, and then we did breakfast at Napa Rose, the Princess Breakfast. That was an awesome experience. Oh my gosh, was it expensive?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard
I
that.
was I was shocked. It was like a $300 or $400 meal.
Whew,
But
man,
our
I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
take that bill.
Yeah, I didn't know it either until the bill came, but our 5-year-old absolutely loved it, and she's our little thrill seeker, so DCA was right up her alley. Uh, we all loved the Incredicoaster,
Wow,
Radiator Springs.
she liked Incredicoaster at 5. I'll give her credit for
Oh, yeah.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and she's super tall. I'm 6'3", my wife is like 5'9", so our kids are always the tallest
Okay.
ones in their
Yeah.
classes, but she loved the Incredicoaster. Radiator Springs Racers. I mean, that's top 3
Oh yeah.
attraction for me anywhere.
Yeah. I've never bought Genie. Well, I bought Genie Plus. We went out in July for the family. I've never bought an individual lightning lane, but I did buy one
Mhm.
this past week, and it was for Radiator Springs Racers. Go like that ride is so awesome. I'm just $18. I was like, I can't believe I'm paying $18 to ride a ride, but I did.
Oh,
I
it's so
gave
worth
in,
it for that
man. It
one.
was, and I got off the thing smiling like it was worth it.
Mhm.
It's a great ride.
And we like the Spider-Man ride. Everything was done up for Halloween and Oogie Boogie Bash at that time. So we saw some pretty cool stuff like the Guardians Mission Breakout. They had I think it was 4 o'clock was the switch over time where they would have the regular version in the morning, and then at 4 p.m. switch to a little scarier one for Halloween. Uh, what else did we do there? Monsters Inc. That was a sneaky little one that we all really liked.
I said the exact same thing, and so did my wife. It's back in the
Hmm.
corner where I swear nobody's ever going to find that ride unless you see it on like a map or something. I mean, it
Hmm.
is so hidden in DCA. And then when we rode it, we're like, this ride is awesome. Like it tells the story
Yeah.
of the movie. It's a great dark ride. I'd never
Hmm.
heard about it. We were just out there like, well, let's check out this ride. We saw it on the map, and we all got off. We're like, that ride is awesome. I've never even heard of that ride ever talked about in my life. It's great.
Yeah, that's just one of those things Disney does so well is that storytelling dark ride.
Right. Totally.
And
Yeah. By the
and
way,
our
I was on the web slinger thing with. I didn't do it in
mhm.
July. I did for the first time last week. I got into a car with like two teenagers, like probably like a 17-year-old like guy and girl, and then like a 13-year-old kid on my other side. They're all like with their hands. I couldn't even tell. This is how I know I'm getting older. I couldn't even tell what color my webs were coming out of my hands, and everybody's doing like karate chop moves. So I'm just, of course, I got the lowest score in the thing. But I mean, it was like Toy Story Mania, but without pulling the trigger. But I wish I could have had a video of what I looked like. That's what they need to sell you at the end of the ride, like a video of just like you, because I'm just like, I'd probably look like Bruce Lee or something like, whoa. But yeah, it was terrible. But they were shooting those spiders like nobody's business. They weren't leaving me anything to clean up. But
Yeah, after the first one, I came off kind of rubbing my arm. My daughter wanted to go on again. Yeah, see if your mom wants to go.
seriously, I was sweating. I'm like, you can't play this with like teenagers, man. They're gonna kill you. Like it's not even fair. That this is like in their wheelhouse. Anyway, so back to that though. You guys, you did World of Color. So where would you rate World of Color when it comes to like nighttime spectaculars that you've seen?
It's in there,
So you're
but
not a huge fan of it then,
it was
apparently.
not our favorite, to be honest.
Okay.
Really, but it was kind of slow.
Yeah.
Um, we uh, compared it to like the Magic Kingdom fireworks and uh, Illuminations. Illuminations was slow, but it was had so much oomph. World of Color was really pretty, and it was you can appreciate it, but it was not our number one highlight of the trip.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, it is beautiful though. It's good for pictures. I'll say that. Okay, so the next day though, we get to because we're going a little long, so make sure we get all this in. You got your VIP
Yeah,
tour this next
absolutely.
day, the third day. So tell us about this next day where you guys head to downtown Disney in the morning.
Yeah, we just we wanted to make sure that we the girls were rested for the VIP tour. We were starting that at 1 p.m. So that morning we just kind of slept in, got some breakfast, and went and walked around downtown Disney for a little bit. Oh, it was shopping, and then
Mhm.
we met our VIP guide in the lobby of the hotel at 1 o'clock. And up until then, we had had a little bit of back and forth with the VIP people, but nothing that substantive. So we wanted to do it farther into our trip where we would know some of the things that we wanted to do again and uh, you know make sure that we did some of the things that we had not had a chance to do yet. So
Good idea.
we
Good. Ooh. I don't know what happened. Like the connection was like fading, fading,
yeah.
fading, and then gone. And I could see, I could see it. I was like, we're hanging on by a thread.
Yep.
You're gone. I was like, oh no. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just edit. I'll go back to asking you about that that third day with the VIP tour, and I'll just go back and chop it from there.
Okay.
So because it was kind of getting sketchy anyway. So this will actually help us out. All right, so here we go. All right, so I want to make sure that we get all this in because we're running a little bit long, but I know on day 3, you guys did a VIP tour, but you started out in downtown Disney. It looks like I, took a little kind of morning to do some shopping, stuff like that. But walk us through this day because this day sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that our girls were well rested for the VIP tour, because if you can go back to the room and take a nap during that, but you're still paying that hourly rate for it. So
Yeah, you're not.
those are expensive naps. So we just slept in, went ate breakfast at the hotel, and then went to downtown Disney. You know, picked up a couple little things, nothing that crazy. Then we met our tour guide in the lobby of the hotel at 1 o'clock, and we had a little bit of back and forth with the VIP service, but nothing really that substantive. And they can take it from, hey, we've heard about Disneyland, and here we are, take us around. But we wanted to do the VIP tour a little bit into our trip, where we had a chance to experience some things and make sure that with the tour that we could redo some things that we really liked, or have the opportunity to do for the first time some of the things that we had not gotten to yet. And it was just amazing, especially with the kids.
Not again. You know it, Aaron. I apologize. I do not know what's happening. This time the signal strength is 5 bars. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, I just dropped off the screen and you went full screen on mine.
That is so weird. Because I mean, because we were getting zero signal the first time you dropped. At that time, I'm like 5 bars green here. I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
I've got full service too.
Same. Okay. Who knows? This service, maybe they're having trouble tonight. We can get through it. We only got like 15 minutes left. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll just edit. So go from where you said it, it's a good value with the kids, and it's good use to have the VIP guide with the kids, and I'll chop it in.
Okay. Yeah, with the kids, where we were going at a little bit slower pace, it's a super good value. Um, they were able to take us to absolutely everything that we wanted to, and that day we did about 19 attractions, and some of those were doubles where we'd have rider swap.
Nice.
And the biggest value I found, or best use of time with having that VIP tour, was doing the rides that did not have lightning lanes. If you did a ride that had a lightning lane, they just scanned you into the lightning lane and then stood in the queue with you. But if you did something like Alice in Wonderland, where there's no lightning lane, they just walk you through the exit. So
Nice.
you pretty much just immediately get on the ride. And for a first time where you're doing a lot of rides that you may not, typically use that service for, it was really cool. Like, we would never get one at Disney World because, we go pretty often, but there, where it's, we may go once every 5 years, and that was really the first time trip. It was cool. Our guide was one of the coolest stories from the trip. He was really, really good at timing things. So it was getting later in the day. We had done all the rides we wanted to at Disneyland, and we were finishing up at DCA, and Monsters Inc. was our last ride there. We were standing in line at Monsters Inc. at 4:21, and like, well, we really want Bingo Barbecue. So he said, okay, order it for a 4:45 pickup window. And the next thing on our agenda was Jungle Cruise. We were standing in the queue for Monsters Inc. and he said, we'll be at Jungle Cruise at 4:47. We were pulling away from the dock at Jungle Cruise at 4:47 on the dot, while he went and picked up our Bingo Barbecue. I mean,
That is crazy.
Not only the little bit of time we had in the queue at Monsters Inc., but to do that attraction, and then walk over to a different park and get to a ride. It just, yeah, that shows how good they are at their jobs.
It shows that, but also let me say something to that effect for just the regular guest who's out on a VIP tour. You can be a lot more precise and things like that at Disneyland just because of the fact that you're
Hmm.
not transportation is a huge part of the fun at Walt Disney World. Don't get me wrong. I love the Skyliner. I love the boats. I love the monorails. I even love the buses because, you meet people on the buses, except at park closing. They're not so much fun. But at Disneyland, like you're walking everywhere. So you pretty much know like how long it's going to take to get from place to place. It's your walking pace, right? So like I know like it's going to take me 10 minutes to go from, like you said, Monsters Inc. to walk over to Jungle Cruise. Like there's not going to be
Hmm.
many variables because there's, past park opening, there's not going to be a line at the turnstiles. I'm going to go through it about 2 or 3 minutes. So you can make those calls. But yeah, I mean, let me ask you this: your VIP guide share any fun stories or trivia or anything like that throughout the day? I think that'd be kind of one of the kicks out of having somebody like that.
Oh, absolutely. Just all day as you're walking around is, yeah, I think they do a good job at judging your Disney craziness.
Fandom.
So they know, how in depth to go with it, and he knew that we love Disney, that we visited World pretty often, so he he really brought us into the weeds,
That's
and
cool.
it was yeah, it was awesome. Not a lot of it sticks with you, but kind of in the moment when you're pointing out that one little thing, and uh, this is that because it's so cool. You feel like you're the only person around that knows it.
Yeah, it takes that visit to a whole nother level. I'm sure that, hey, everybody's walking right past this little thing that nobody's going to
Hmm.
notice today. So now I got a little story. I
Which
think that,
there's a lot of at
yeah,
Disneyland.
totally. I know because I'm just like you. I'm sure like right before I go out there, both times in July and this past trip, I was like reading stuff, like little
Hmm.
trivia and, just, what does this hitching post mean in New Orleans Square? Or, this what's still left from 1960s at Disneyland that you can still see, the petrified tree. And, it's just
Hmm.
little things like that people walk by and probably say, what is that thing? Outside the Golden Horseshoe. That's the weirdest looking big rock or something. It's the petrified tree that
Yep.
Lillian said, Walt, take that to your park. It's kind of ugly. Get it out of here. So now I got to get my picture with it. Okay, so I'll make sure we get the rest of this in. So you did that. Now the next day though, you guys, it looks like you and your daughter, your 5-year-old, went over to DCA in the morning and just had like some father-daughter time and just kind of hit some favorites. That kind of sounds fun.
We did. We did. We started out with storytellers breakfast that morning. We did the
Nice.
buffet there, and that was solid. And then the our 10-month old was being a 10-month old, so my wife went back to the room with her, and me and the 5-year old are the Disney people. We're watching the vlogs and listening to Be Our Guest on the way to school in the morning. So
Yes.
she's my little travel Disney buddy. So that was really cool that we were able to go over and redo some of our favorites. We did Spider Man, Radiator Springs. We did the regular version of Guardians instead of the Halloween version. Did the highlight of our whole trip, the bread tour.
Yes, yes. Very few things are free. The one bite of bread is, and seeing the big Mickey at the end. That's yeah, you're exactly right. Well, I guess it'll be called San Francisco or whatever from
Oh
now on.
yeah.
But the Pacific Wharf as it is or
Hmm.
was, I don't know where it stands right at this moment, but yeah, that cool little area. Girardelli's too. I had one of the best Sundays ever over
Oh
there
yeah.
too. Oh, so good.
And then
So
we did the Grizzly River run. I'm not a big fan of those rides where you just get soaking wet,
me
but it
neither.
was
I didn't
on the
do
way
it.
back to the hotel, and I knew we were headed for naps, so that was the last stop. Went by there, then went back to the room, changed, took naps, and then we all went back to Disneyland that evening.
So you guys were starting to get close to the end of the trip because I remember this feeling
Mhm.
in July. Like once you hit kind of like you're over halfway through your trip. If you're like me, Scott says he feels it. You start to just get this kind of, oh man, like it's going so fast. Like, it's going to be over before you know it. And it's at family time, right? Because when you're at home, everybody's working, everybody's going here and there. When you're at vacation at World or Disneyland, like you're together. All you're focused on is riding rides, having fun meals, and downtime where you're sharing stories and laughing together and having ice cream. I mean, life is almost perfect when you're on vacation with your family. Not always, but it's pretty good.
Mhm.
And you just, you feel that starting to come to an end, and here you are, you got like a day left in the parks. Are you starting to kind of get that a little bit? I mean, do you get that as a dad? Because I know Scott and I talk about that all the time. It
Oh,
kind of
absolutely.
gets
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
I get it on every trip we take. It's the okay, we've been here one day, so that means there's 4 days left.
It's terrible. Like I shouldn't think that way. I need to get over it.
And especially, with our proximity to Disney World, we're an hour, like a little over an hour flight, or a, you know, 10-hour car drive. So it feels like it's kind of always right there. This is the other side of the country. So,
Yeah,
it's,
it's special,
that's not going to be twice a year thing
right?
unless you're Mike Rallman.
No, what I I got lucky on this one. I think Pam was felt bad because I didn't get the Tron media thing, so she sent me out
Mhm.
there. So I said, I won. That's okay. I'll ride Tron going down next week for a spring surprise. If I get
Mhm.
on, I get on. It's a quick ride. Anyway, okay. So your last day though, you guys, because you did a couple of like touristy things after the Disneyland trip. How do you do your last day in Disneyland? That's kind of the because you've been looking forward to it. This is the kind of the culmination of it. So walk us through your last day there. How'd you wrap it up?
So my wife knows me really well, and our Disney time is a lot different than regular time. So we checked out that morning, left our bags with Bell Services, and we still had park tickets. So we said, well, we'll go hit a few of our favorites. So we went to Disneyland and the Big Thunder, Pirates, Tiki Room. So some of the big
Classics.
favorites, and you know I thought that was it. And then I looked down, and we had lightning lanes for Spider-Man, Incredicoaster, and Radiator Springs. My wife had bought a couple of the individuals and then lucked up and got another one. So we went over to DCA, did a few more, and left about 5 hours later than we were planning on. But we went back to the hotel, got our car, and drove to Santa Monica.
And okay, so real quick though, before we close this out, did you do anything that was remarkable as far as outside of the Disneyland trip, like Southern California for families? Like I went to a Dodgers game, and I recommend that for anybody that's any kind of a baseball fan. I mean, it's truly for somebody that's grown up watching baseball my whole life to
Mhm,
actually be sitting in Dodger Stadium and see the mountains over the outfield,
mhm,
terrace. I'm like, that was real. Like on TV, I could have swore that was just like a painting or something. I was like,
mhm.
this honest to God real. Like I'm at Dodger Stadium. Did you guys do anything like that was pretty cool that you might recommend?
We did. Our hotel was actually right on the beach, and we could see the iconic Santa Monica Pier from there. So we went there, did some of the touristy things there. Where we live in North Carolina, we're about 40 minutes from the coast, so it was really cool to let our girls go into the Pacific Ocean after already being in the Atlantic.
Right.
And as we were sitting on the beach there, I'm a pilot, not professionally, but I fly a little bit for fun. So it's cool. You can see the Santa Monica Pier on one side, and then uh, see all the planes taking off from LAX. So that was really awesome to see. But we did all the regular touristy things. Went and saw the Hollywood sign, drove uh, downtown Hollywood, and saw a lot of the sights and the scary Mickeys walking on the street.
See, we didn't do that. We drove to see the Hollywood sign, though. We went to the Griffith Observatory. So because
Hmm.
Mallory had to see that. She's a
Hmm.
15-year-old girl and had to have the picture, for social media with the Hollywood sign over her shoulder. We had to do, when they're 15, you got to take them to Beverly Hills, which I was the most out of
Oh
place
yeah,
person in
yeah,
the
we did that
history of
too.
the world. Mike Rallman on Rodeo Drive. I was just like, Pam, we got to get out of here. Like for real. If there's one place on this planet I do not fit in, it is this street. It was the
I was the
wildest
same
thing.
way at a stoplight. My rented minivan kind of sinking down in my seat.
It's like, I don't know why I'm here, and I don't want to be here too long because I
Hmm.
know, like, people look at me like, who is that guy? Like, I just don't fit in. But man, I love this. So we got to wrap up, but we've gone a little bit too long. Not too long, but we've just got a little long. And I love this because I could talk about this Disneyland trip forever. What's your lasting memory from this trip? I mean, it's a Father's Day gift. I mean, obviously, a Father's Day you'll never ever forget. But did you have like one special? I mean, you had so many great moments, but something like a memory that just maybe was unexpected. You guys had some kind of a dessert that you shared, or your girls did something that surprised you, or and you mentioned like Monsters Inc. being a surprise attraction. Anything like that that really sticks with you? That's kind of like the core memory from this vacation.
Oh, that first day, just how moving it was to be there. You think about Disney that it's, you know, okay, it's a theme park, but it's so much more than that. And to be there at that place that has inspired a you know multitude of theme parks around the world, and that's the place that really started it all, the original idea. And to be there with my family, it's somewhere that was so important to, well, certainly my wife and I, and hopefully will be one day to my kids. Uh, I, I was surprised how moved I was about it. I thought it would be, oh man, this is awesome. We're at Disneyland, but to really have an emotional experience about it was awesome.
I couldn't I couldn't agree more. That's exactly how I felt. I went out there because everybody kind of peer pressured me. Everybody said, you gotta go, you gotta go. And I mean, I'm like the Disney guy, right? I've done a Disney podcast for
Hmm.
15 years, been to Walt Disney World, been on all these cruises. I felt like, well, I have to. And so I went out there and I was like, I'm gonna have fun. I mean, don't get me wrong. I told myself I'm gonna have a good time at Disneyland. They have all the right, they have Space Mountain, they have Big Thunder, they have pirates. I mean, it's gonna be a blast. But God, I was emotional. Like, and I
Yeah.
mean, I hardcore fell in love for Disneyland. Like, there's something about that place. I think I say on last Friday's podcast, like the nostalgia is almost for somebody like us, not for
Mhm.
everybody probably, but for folks listening to our show, like the nostalgia is almost so thick. Like when you're walking through Fantasyland or on Main Street, that you can just like cut it with a knife.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Like it's just it's tangible. It's
You just
wild.
get goosebumps and don't really know why, but then you just look at your surroundings.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, Justin, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy family, and what a way to start the week. So thanks again, and happy spring to you, and go Blue Devils next basketball season.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All righty. Don't forget our show is brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. Check them out this week. We'd love to help you plan that next Disneyland, Walt Disney World, Disney Cruise Line, or Adventures by Disney trip. Just swing by the website this week over at themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link when you shop online. That one extra click supports everything we do throughout the year. It's beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And a sincere thank you to the patrons of the Be Our Guest podcast. You guys make all this possible. And our patrons get that bonus show every week. It's called Mike in the Midwest. This past week, it was all about me teaching my 15-year-old how to drive and how that all changed driver's ed. It was so much easier when I was in high school. There's not even driver's ed at her high school now. So we had that conversation on Mike in the Midwest. So if you'd like to get this bonus show every week, come on over patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. Give me a follow on the social media. I'm at Be Our Guest Mike on Instagram and Twitter. Would love to talk to you this week. And don't forget, no live show this Sunday night because I will be down at Walt Disney World for the Spring Surprise Run Disney Races. Actually, I'll be in the air on the way home, but there will be no live show this Sunday night. So we'll take the Sunday night off. And we'll be back a week from this Sunday for another live call-in show. So watch some baseball. Go for a walk with the family. Have fun. Have the night off. All right. For Justin, I'm Mike. Wishing you a great Monday. Whatever you do, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. Thanks, Justin. That was awesome. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you.
All right. And tell your daughter I said, hey, because if she listens to the show, that's awesome.
Okay, will do.
I appreciate it. All right. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
All right, thanks. You
I'll
too.
see you later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
See you, everybody.